Champions League football for Newcastle United. An unbelievable night for them, really. Unbelievable season. That incredible. Guarantees it tonight. What a job Eddie Howe has done. Give us your take on them as a football club.
Well, they're ahead of schedule, and they have absolutely capitalised on the capitulation that Chelsea have delivered and what Spurs have done, Liverpool. But they deserve to be there. Yes, other teams have failed, but to go into a game when there's one game left, needing only a point to get Champions League football. I've got Spurs, Chelsea. We've all gone into those games needing something on the last day of the season, let alone to do it with 3 points to spare. They're above Man United. They probably will stay there. They'll beat Chelsea last game of the season. So that congratulations to them. And now it's about building and sustainable, because they've not had Champions League football this. They know Europe. It's a different challenge next year. They've got to get the squad in place. Yeah. Totally different. And Arsenal also, another team. Yes, they've had European football, but Arsenal were in a competition where they can afford to rest players, like in the Europa League. Champions League, you do not rest anyone. You've got to go full tilt, full tilt every single game. You can't afford, unless of course you've got yourself secured into knockout football with a game to spare, which is rare. So they will be looking at that now, looking to add, looking to trim the squad, get out the players they feel that aren't going to be good enough for the next step up, and move forward. And that's the challenge. But they've not spent a huge sum of money.
Do you think they need to now? Do you think they go out and buy a couple of marquee players?
I think what they have to do, they've got to try and do what the best teams in Champions League do, is where you try to cover as many positions as possible.
Yeah.
So if you do have, like Arsenal this year, Saliba going out, that can't happen next year. Yeah. That can't happen. You've got to have a replacement come in, and the club not feel as though they've stepped back, feel as though they can it's difficult, of equal quality, or someone come in. I mean, the benchmark City, but you can't compare them because they've been preparing and planning for what they're about to embark on the next 3 weeks for the last 10 years. Yeah. This has been building to this moment, right? Yeah. And what they've got to try and do is bring in players. I've just watched Leicester, right? You've seen Maddison. Maddison won't be at Leicester next season. I don't care whether they stay up or go down. Teams will be looking at him thinking, right, he will add a little bit of something different to what we need.
Yeah, I think it'd be a massive sign of it. What did you make of Leicester's performance, though, tonight? Because, Adrian Durham and Danny Mills moaning about the way they went about the game.
I don't know what they're on about.
But you actually said that's a great point.
I've got no idea what they're on about, because
they should not try and win the game, throw everything at it to try and get themselves out the bottom three going into the last day of the season. They are still relying on Everton to not win.
But what they have now...
They're at home to Bournemouth, Jace. So really and truthfully, for me, in the last 15, 20 minutes of the game, for me, Leicester should have thrown the kitchen sink at it.
Well, they did have a go towards the end, but...
It wasn't enough, though.
Well, they found themselves in a situation, as did Newcastle, by the way. You watch Newcastle start to fear about losing it, because they know that point is enough. Yeah. So the three they didn't necessarily lead, but you watch the way how all of a sudden Leicester... There was a period in that game, about 6-7 minutes before the end, where Leicester knew they needed a win, and Newcastle knew they didn't need to win. Yeah. And you watched, all of a sudden, Leicester felt as though might get something here. And I have to say, I thought Dean Smith tactically got it right today. There's only two teams that have gone to Newcastle this season and won, right? Liverpool and Arsenal. Only two teams. That's it. Only two teams. Man City couldn't do it. I felt that the point was the best they could get, right? The best they could get. And on another day, they might sneak it. On another day, they might lose it. What they've done, they've allowed themselves to be in a position where there's only one team above them now. So they only need to... They've still got to win. But now Everton, before going into today, only needed a point, in theory, with goal difference. Now Everton have to win. So what they've done, they kept Everton honest. They've kept Everton. So you stay up, Everton. I think Leicester tonight have done as good as they possibly could against a side next year that's in the Champions League away from it. I think it's a brilliant result. I don't know what Durham and who was it?
Danny Mills.
Danny Mills we're talking about. I've got no idea. I think it's a brilliant result.
Okay. All right, you can have your sound at 03717 223344. Oh, let's go to Joe, who's a Leicester fan. All right, Joe?
Hi there, you right?
Yeah, good, Joe. Look, we've heard Dean Smith. You've heard Cundy's take on the tactics of the game. What did you make of it?
I agree with him, to be honest, because we're at a point where there's a reason we are where we are. We've been terrible this season. if we went and played how we've been playing the past few games, the result, Newcastle would have won. So we simply didn't have a choice. We've got ourselves in that position, and you've got to try and make the worst out of a bad situation, which I think we've done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Do you fancy your chances next week? Or Sunday?
Yeah, like, you just have to, don't you? I personally, I think Everton will do the job, especially with the atmosphere at Goodison Park. But I just think it won't necessarily, as much as I love Leicester, I've seen as I got a season ticket when we got to League One. That's when I got a season ticket. So I've seen us through all the good times and the bad. Yeah. And I just feel like it's not necessarily a bad time for a reset. Me personally, like, would I rather see us next season just be in a similar position, or actually go back down to the Championship, rebuild and come back up and win more games than we lose? As I say, I just think we're at a position where we've got a lot of dead wood. We've got a lot of good players, but I don't think a lot of players are playing for the club anymore. And I think we just need a big rechange. And I think our best chance of having success for the future is actually going down to the Championship and then coming back up.
There's a lot of fans that have been saying this, Jason. You know, maybe it's worth speaking to, you know, say a Burnley fan or, you know, a Norwich fan where, you know, they've been used to that, where they go down and have come back up, and get their take on it, because a lot of Leicester fans and that have said, you know, what's not the worst thing in the world to go down? And, you know, we always say, no, you shouldn't go down. You can't go down.
No, I totally disagree with that on every level. You do not want to go down. That is the last saloon. You do not want to say, go down, reset. Reset, what does that mean, reset? There are teams that are going to come back up and go. You see how competitive that league is, the Championship. You don't want to do that, Joe. I think you're kidding yourself a little bit, if I'm honest.
The Sports Bar with Jamie O'Hara and Jason Cundy. Monday to Thursday nights from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.